more developed a society becomes, the more technologically advanced it grows, the more educated its people are, the less they're willing to accept, supernatural reasons for X, Y, and Z taking place. I think that the truest conservatism is based upon history, heritage, and culture. And now religion does factor into that, no question, but it's in service of these things rather than being the centerpiece. And what a lot of American conservatives want to do, not, I mean, like most of them or anything like that, but a very noisy minority, what they want to do is make it so there's this abstract focus on Christianity as the substance for American conservative life and American life generally. But this Christianity, first and foremost, there's so many different denominations, and the question becomes which variant of Christianity are we talking about? Some people on the right, like Torba, do this like ecumenical thing, but that's never going to work. You can't have a Christian nationalism based on Christian ecumenism. It's impossible. Even beyond that, it's obviously a very desperate attempt to find some national identity. Where there is none, as such we see in today's America. And it's very sad because this is sort of like people who are on a sinking ship trying to make a life raft out of wood planks. They could try, but it's not going to work. It's not the genuine article. The genuine article, in terms of legitimate conservatism, is history, heritage, and culture. The language you speak, your bloodline, how people live within certain geopolitical bounds that your group has lived in since time immemorial. That's real conservatism. But unfortunately, today in America, we don't have any prospect for that happening. So we get this mech conservatism, if you will, which could be civic nationalism, it could be this Christian nationalism, it could be focused on abstract ideas, such as you'd find with the National Review crowd. It's really pathetic all around.
Well, nothing lasts. So sometimes my sinuses are all plugged up at night, and I use a nasal spray and it unplugs my sinuses. But does that last? It doesn't even last 2 days. It lasts about 12 hours. I'm so grateful for those 12 hours where my sinuses are unplugged. So just because something doesn't last is not a strong argument against it. Now, regarding theological disputes, my father was a theologian with 2 PhDs in theology. And so his whole life was built around arguing theology. And so I got a somewhat distorted understanding of Christianity because I thought, all Christian homes are like this. But when I started to expand my life, I realized most Christians don't give a damn about theology. It's really the plaything of a few intellectuals. One way of approaching this is, what kind of sex life do you want? If you want to have kids, what else are you going to do? You're going to need to become a Christian or an observant Jew or a Muslim. If you want to have kids and community, it'll be so much easier to do it in America in a Christian religion. If you just want to bang and be promiscuous, then you're probably not going to be religious. Now, I think that the left-wing and right-wing responses to life are genetically written into us, because in some situations, a left-wing approach to life is more adaptive. So in some situations, welcoming strangers and egalitarianism and trying new ways of organizing people is more adaptive. And so those are the left-wing impulses that we've had for thousands of years. And then in other situations, a right-wing approach of distrusting strangers, an obsession with purity and order, and maintaining traditional ways of organizing people, that's more adaptive. So we need both of these. We need both of these adaptations. Some circumstances, one is going to be more adaptive than the other. But I don't think it really comes down to true conservatives based on history and culture. I think true conservatism is based on the family. And so if you want to have a family, I just think it would be more adaptive for most people in the United States of America right now to be Christian. And it's not primarily about theology. It's primarily about hanging out with your friends. So I was taken aback by a sociologist who came from the religion I was raised in, who did a study and found that people tend to move out of their church if they have fewer than 5 friends there. So religion is primarily about hanging out with your friends and with your family and with your group. So I can go anywhere in the world and step into a synagogue and I've got a home. I've got a portable home. And so in an America that is so rationalized, that is so transient, where people are constantly moving, a church is a version of old-fashioned country living where people knew each other for generations. And so, where else are you going to get that kind of comfort? From a purely secular perspective, religion is primarily about providing people comfort. And
Mhm.
so if people aren't getting their comfort from Christianity, where are they going to be getting it? They're not going to primarily be studying philosophy. They're not going to primarily be taking on the teachings of the Stoics. They're going to be watching more TV. They're going to be having more promiscuous sex. They're going to be playing more video games. They're going to spend more money going to rap music concerts. I just see the less Christianity in America. I don't see superior things by and large replacing it. Us.
I don't. I don't think that superior things are going to replace what we have in America today. Period. I don't think there's any kind of going to be any kind of renewal or turnaround. Bringing Christianity back basically would mean that it would have to adapt to where people are today, so it would be relevant to them. And that's where you get woke Christianity from, or a Christianity that's not woke, but sort of like Joel Osteen, where it's very emotional and highly subjective. And that really, I mean, it's I'll put it to you this way. I mean, I've obviously been out of high school for quite a while now, but I'm not Catholic, obviously, but I did go to a Roman Catholic high school. And very few people, even back then, were believers at the end, at graduation. It was just something that they did, or if they weren't believers at all, which would be like me. And it's really that was back then. This was quite a while ago now. Today it has to be something like that, but on crack. So I don't think that bringing Christianity back into this social situation that I'm describing is going to save it. What saves people is living in a homogenous, culturally cohesive, one might say, pro-social community. And that is what you get in some place like Switzerland, where they do have robust conservatism, or Uruguay. And now these are not places where conservatism is like Jerry Falwell, raging, evangelizing, this, that, the other thing, Rick Santorum bullshit. The conservatism in these places is much more subdued, but it's much more genuine. In Uruguay, you have the conservatism of Latin Europe, which also produces an extremely secular society, but all the same, one with tolerance, but surprisingly, robustly traditional values, even though in Uruguay, you're very likely to run into the average person who will laugh at you if you bring up Jesus.